All right, and we are on to day number 17 of our 30 days of Q&A. And today I wanted to answer a question that I heard from a lot of people who are submitting who sounds like one of the biggest challenges in general is just feeling like there's so many different things to do, not really being sure how to focus, and in general, just the feeling of overwhelm. And today's training is something that I think is really kind of the foundation. It's probably the most important thing out of everything that we're talking about here. And this is really about your mindset and your internal foundation for how you show up every day and just how you feel health-wise, physically, mental health. And it's probably the most important thing out of everything else that we're talking about here. So I wanted to just pull in some resources that are from a previous presentation that I did for our Gold Arts Academy program. And hopefully this will be helpful. All right, so mindset mastery. This is all about building on the right foundation because it's possible to be successful building on the wrong foundation, right? You can build a massive tower built on a poor foundation, but as soon as there's a storm, as soon as there's an earthquake, anything is going to come tumbling down. Versus if you build it on the correct foundation, then it actually can grow and it can weather the storm. And that's certainly how, when it comes to your mindset, how I'd recommend thinking about it. So I want to walk through the 6 most important components that I found when it comes to taking care of yourself and your mindset and really priming yourself for success. And I think the number one most important thing I'd recommend is getting a really solid morning ritual in place because this is really the foundation of your entire day. If you don't start off the right way, if you don't really prime yourself for success, then everything else, you tend to be reactive and you don't really tend to do the things that are necessary in order to achieve your goals. And so I think that the morning ritual is one of the most important foundational pieces. So the 6 different pieces are: 1 is your vision and getting clarity on where you're going. 2 is starting your day with some movement and exercise. 3 is having a meditation practice to get comfortable sitting in silence and process whatever's coming up. 4 is gratitude, so to really be able to express the things that you're thankful for and to appreciate what you have. Because if you don't have this piece, then almost nothing else really matters. 5th is nutrition. This is really about giving yourself the fuel that you need to be able to think clearly, to feel good, to be able to be productive. And 6 is sleep, right? And if you don't prioritize your sleep, then literally you won't function as a human being. So your vision, the analogy that I use here for your vision is that it's like you have this internal thermostat, and that's your self-image. And so if you see yourself as being at 70 degrees and success starts to happen and now you're at 80 degrees, if you still have that self-image set at 70 degrees, then likely what's going to happen is subconscious and internal things that are going to pop up that actually sabotage you and bring you back down to the level that you were at. And so your vision is really about resetting your thermostat and getting really clear on what your ideal goal is, what your vision is, so that you can actually become the person that you need to be. So the tool that I use for this is called my vision map. And there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. If you want to learn more about it, then you can actually join our masterclass. And we walk through in more detail how you can create that vision map. But really the idea here is that you set your thermostat at a higher level that really encourages you to be able to stretch and grow into that person. 2 is movement. So movement's really important. This is just, there's a lot of things mentally and physically and emotionally that go into an exercise routine. And what they found is that when it comes to exercise and movement, that weight loss isn't even really the number one benefit that you get out of it. It's actually around your mental health and how you feel and physically just how you operate. And starting out your day with movement, I think is a really high leverage point because it's going to release endorphins. It's going to make you feel good physically, emotionally, and just help you show up at a higher level. The number one tool that I would recommend for movement is an app I started with called Couch to 5K. Basically teaches you how to go from not running at all to running a 5K. And it's probably the number one thing that's impacted my life physically in terms of just going from someone who doesn't like to run, doesn't like to move around, to now running at least half an hour a day, running a few miles. And I think that this is one of the highest leverage activities you can do early on. So that's one app I would recommend. Meditation. So this is really crucial. This is really how you get centered and allow yourself to process any of the things that are lingering in your subconscious. It's like a computer operating on RAM, where if you have a bunch of different loops, a bunch of different processes that are taking up memory, then without you even realizing it, you're really sabotaging yourself. You have all these different things that are conflicting. You have these emotional, unresolved loops that are still processing in the background. So I think that just by sitting in silence and learning how to meditate, you can actually allow that stuff to come up and learn how to process it in a way that you can let it go so that you can be focused and have clear attention without your mind running crazy. So my favorite tool for meditation is called Insight Timer. And this app basically lets you set a timer and have chimes in between it. You can also use something like Headspace if you're just getting started to learn how to meditate through guided meditation. But I personally like apps that just allow you to sit in silence and really just kind of notice what's happening on your own. Gratitude. So this is really about being appreciation or noticing the things that are already working in your life, things that you're grateful for. If we don't have this piece, then it's so easy to, our minds can focus on the negative and focus on things that we don't have. And you can live your whole life that way, not appreciating what you have. And then at the end of your life, like looking back, you're about to die. It's like, man, yeah, I didn't ever really enjoy the journey that I was on. I missed it. I missed it because I didn't pay attention to the things that I had, right? And so I think having a daily gratitude practice is really, really important. And the number one tool I'd recommend for this is the 5-minute journal. So this basically just has a really quick 5-minute process where you just write down a few things you're grateful for each day. I'm also a big fan of expressing future gratitudes. So if you have goals and during this practice, if you can actually think about 3 things that haven't happened yet, to express gratitude for them as if they've already happened, that's been a really powerful practice in my own life that I would recommend as well. Nutrition. This is so important. This is how you fuel yourself. This is how you stay clear and energetic. And if you don't eat well, then your gut just doesn't feel good. And if you're not currently eating healthy or you haven't really valued this, then you might not fully appreciate the difference that it makes until you get into the routine of actually fueling yourself with the right types of energy and getting clear focus. So the number one thing I would recommend for nutrition is something that was recommended by one of my mentors, Evan Pagan, is having a green shake. And I love my green shake so much. It's so good in the mornings. This is really how I get all the veggies, all of the nutrients, all of the fruits that I really need in the morning. But you can Google some different recipes for it. Over time, I've created my own recipe for a green shake smoothie that I make in the morning, and I have it for breakfast and lunch most days. And usually we prepare it a week ahead of time, so we just have all the containers ready, and then it's just really fast and easy to create this. But this is really the number one thing I would recommend for nutrition in your morning routine. And sleep. So sleep is really important. If you don't get enough sleep, then your mind literally just goes crazy. It has all these different effects on you mentally, physically, emotionally. And so I know that the jury's still out for like how much sleep do each of us need. It's different for different people. But my recommendation would be to get the Aura ring. And the Aura ring is basically a ring that tracks your sleep. And it's really cool. It actually pulls in all of your different sleep data so you can track your sleep and see how you're feeling after a night of good sleep versus poor sleep. And so that's my number one tool for that. And then lastly, the one thing I want to kind of wrap this all up with is I would recommend having some sort of habit tracker to track these different habits in your morning routine. And this is a tool that we created for our program, but you can definitely create something like this for yourself, and you can mix and match and create your own habits that you're looking to instill. But part of this daily habit tracker is I would recommend just filling out on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling physically, mentally, emotionally, and just track that you're actually doing the most important habits every single day. We also have a segment here that actually tracks all of your sleep details. And then if you want to set up an audit system, I'd highly recommend this. Having an accountability partner. And then you can set some accountability where if you miss your tracking or if you miss one of these habits, then you can set it up so that you actually owe money to cause, for example. So the way that we do this is we have a music fund that some of our team leaders, Modern Musician, contribute to when we don't do our habit tracker or when we miss one of our keystone habits. And we've raised about $4,000 so far from that. So that's one way that you can keep yourself accountable and have a reason to be showing up here and making sure that you're doing the most important things every single day. So quick recap, the most important habits I recommend for your morning ritual are getting in touch with your vision map, some movement or exercise, meditation, a gratitude practice, nutrition, and sleep. And 3 mistakes to avoid are 1, checking email or social media when you wake up. It's really common, but it literally can detract your entire day. So I'd recommend not doing any of this until you've gone through your entire morning ritual, and then you can check your email, social media if you really want to. But I would recommend instead starting to work on one of your top 3 highest priority tasks before you do any of this stuff, which is going to be very reactive. Hitting snooze on the alarm is another big mistake. There's been a lot of studies that just show that when you hit snooze, you don't really get good quality sleep after that, but it can really get you started off on the wrong foot. Another thing that I didn't add here, but I would highly recommend is having a big glass of water. It's when you first wake up is when you're most dehydrated. So just have a glass of water that you prepare right by your bed so you wake up and you drink that glass of water. And mistake number 3 is not breaking habit gravity. So all the stuff that we just walked through might seem like a lot, but once you get into the habit of doing it, it's really automatic. Like you do it without having to think about it, and it just makes you feel good. And so you're going to keep doing it. When you just get started doing this, then there's going to be habit gravity. So if you're not used to doing these things, there's gravity in your existing habits that you're going to have to break in order to switch over to these new habits. So there's a lot of different theories on how many days in a row you have to do something. Some people say 30, some say 90, some say different amounts. But the idea here is that the more that you do the habit, the good habits, the easier it gets. And eventually you actually break habit gravity. So you're just floating in essentially like in outer space. And you actually have you have momentum that's actually pulling you towards doing those things. So it's what you do by default rather than having to force yourself to do these healthy habits. All right, so hopefully this is helpful. I geek out about this different stuff, and it's probably the number one most important thing that I would recommend focusing on. If you're not feeling good, I think the first thing you start is internally with your mindset and with your health. And yeah, if you have any questions, you can click on the link in the description to be able to submit a question. And otherwise, until next time.